Every cheating woman accidentally reveals her secret words shushing eyes, and the truth is it is never about the words she says, it is about the pattern she cannot hide. When people betray their commitments, they always leak the truth through their habits. Consistency is the one thing no one can fake. You can script the perfect story, but you cannot script your daily behavior. When someone steps out of integrity, the first thing to slip is their energy. They speak softer, they show up later, they defend harder, not because they are committed to the lie, but because the lie drains them. When your choices do not align with your values, your own body becomes the evidence. That is why truth comes out long before the confession. You feel it in the small shifts, the tiny dodges, the sudden guard that was not there before. This is not about judging others. This is about understanding that you reveal yourself the same way. The promises you break to yourself show up in your tone, in your delays, in your excuses. Your words say you want discipline, but your actions whisper that you want comfort. Your goals say you want growth, but your routines hint that you are still negotiating with your old self. So use this as a mirror. Study the ways people expose their truth without meaning to. Learn how to recognize your own patterns. Strength is not built in the big moments. It is built in the moments you think no one notices. The way you show up when no one is watching becomes the foundation of the person you become. Integrity is not something you announce. It is something you live. People reveal truth through their patterns, not their words, because behavior is the one thing no one can fake. You can rehearse a story 1,000 times. You can plan every line and polish every explanation. But the reality is that words are disposable. They can be created on command and altered to fit the moment. Actions, however, are rooted in habit, and habit is built over time. The longer someone tries to hide what is real, the more their true nature begins to leak out through the small, unnoticed behaviors that do not match the polished narrative they want to present. Patterns show up in the choices people make when they are not thinking about how they look. They show up in how someone shows up consistently or inconsistently. They show up in how someone handles pressure or discomfort. When a person speaks, they often try to present the version of themselves they want others to believe. But when they act, they reveal the version of themselves they actually are. You can only fake actions for a short period of time because real life eventually disrupts performance. Fatigue sets in, emotions get triggered, stress exposes the gaps, and that is when the truth rises to the surface. People tend to forget that behavior is a form of communication. It is louder than words because it is not filtered. When someone says they are trustworthy, but they hide small details or dodge simple questions, their behavior is saying something else. When someone claims they are committed, yet they repeatedly choose convenience over consistency, their behavior is revealing their priorities. Even silence communicates. When someone avoids or withdraws without explanation, the absence of action becomes its own message. Patterns are powerful because they are not created in one moment. They are created through repetition. And repetition always exposes what a person values. If someone values honesty, it shows up in transparency even when it is uncomfortable. If someone values loyalty, it shows up in the small choices they make when no one is keeping score. If someone values themselves, they show it in their habits, their boundaries, and their effort. Words can pretend to value anything. Patterns cannot. This is why observing behavior gives you a deeper truth than listening to promises. Promises are easy because they cost nothing in the moment. Patterns cost energy. They require alignment between intention and action. When the alignment is real, the behavior stays consistent. When alignment is missing, cracks appear, and those cracks repeat until they form a recognizable pattern. Learning to trust patterns over words builds clarity. It helps you stop falling for explanation and start paying attention to evidence. It teaches you to rely on what people do daily rather than what they say occasionally. Most importantly, it helps you reflect on yourself. Because if you want others to trust you, then your own habits must be consistent with the identity you claim. You cannot ask for faith in you if your daily actions contradict your own message. When someone steps out of integrity, their energy, habits, and consistency shift long before they ever confess, because the human body struggles to maintain alignment with something that is untrue. When you are living in a way that contradicts your values, the conflict shows up in your presence. It is not always loud or dramatic. Most times it shows up in subtle changes that only become obvious once you understand what to look for. Integrity creates steadiness. When integrity cracks, steadiness disappears and is replaced by inconsistency that no amount of explanation can fully cover. Energy is the first thing to shift. People who are hiding something often operate with a kind of internal tension. They speak a little differently, not always in what they say, but in how they say it. Their tone becomes guarded. Their responses slow down because they are calculating rather than being present. This drain on their energy comes from the effort required to maintain a story that does not match their reality. Living out of alignment is exhausting, and exhaustion always leaks into how someone moves, thinks, and engages. Then their habits begin to change. People do not abandon routines without reason. When someone breaks integrity, they subconsciously create distance between themselves and anything that reminds them of what they are betraying. They stop showing up the way they used to. They withdraw from shared spaces or responsibilities because consistency becomes harder to fake. They start choosing temporary comfort over long-term stability because the guilt creates emotional exhaustion, and emotional exhaustion makes discipline harder. Every skipped routine, every delayed response, every unexplained shift becomes another breadcrumb pointing toward the truth. Their consistency becomes the final giveaway. You cannot maintain a lie with the same steadiness you maintain the truth. Truth flows, lies require constant adjustment. That is why someone who is hiding something often becomes unpredictable. One day they are fully engaged, the next day they pull away. One moment they are open, the next moment defensive. Consistency demands alignment between intention and action. When intention is fractured, the pattern breaks, and that break shows through even when someone is trying their hardest to appear normal. These shifts are not about catching people. They are about understanding the natural consequences of stepping out of integrity. When you violate your values, you create internal friction. That friction disrupts your ability to move through life with clarity and confidence. Even if you say the right words, your energy says something else. Even if you offer explanations, your habits contradict them. Even if you insist everything is fine, your inconsistency exposes the truth. This awareness is not only about others. It is also a mirror for yourself. When you notice your own energy dipping without reason, or your habits slipping, or your consistency weakening, it is often a sign that you are not aligned with your own values. It means you might be negotiating with yourself, cutting corners, or avoiding truths you do not want to face. Integrity is not lost in one big decision. It erodes through small compromises that eventually reshape your behavior. Betrayal, whether to others or to yourself, shows up in small actions, delays, excuses, and emotional changes, because the truth always finds a way to surface through behavior long before it is spoken out. Loud, when someone begins to step out of alignment with what they claim to value, the first signs appear in inconsistencies that seem minor at first. These are the tiny fractures that eventually grow into obvious gaps. Most people look for dramatic evidence, but the real signals live in the quiet shifts that happen when a person is no longer grounded in honesty or commitment. Small actions are the earliest indicators. A person who once communicated openly starts offering shorter replies. Someone who used to initiate connection now waits for you to reach out first. A partner who once paid attention to details suddenly becomes forgetful about things that used to matter. They may not even realize these changes themselves because they are automatic responses to internal conflict. When your internal world changes, your external actions realign even when you try to hide it. This is why tiny changes often reveal the truth before the person does. Delays are another sign of growing disconnection. When people are betraying a commitment, they avoid situations that would expose the misalignment. Texts take longer to answer, plans get postponed, simple conversations become something they hesitate to engage in. These delays create a cushion between their real behavior and the expectations placed on them. The more they pull away, the more space they need to keep the truth from colliding with the image they are trying to maintain. Delay is not laziness, it is a form of self-protection for someone who is out of integrity. Excuses begin to multiply next. People who are aligned rarely need to justify their actions. Their behavior speaks for itself. But someone who is betraying their own standards or betraying another person starts creating explanations for things that should not need them. They lean on stress or busyness or confusion to cover the choices they hope will go unnoticed. Their stories become slightly less believable because each excuse needs another excuse to support it. The cycle grows until there is too much to keep track of. Emotional changes become the strongest signal. Guilt, frustration, defensiveness, and withdrawal are emotional reactions that surface when someone lives out of integrity. They become easily irritated over small things because they are carrying internal pressure. They may accuse others of things they themselves are doing. They project their discomfort outward because holding it inside becomes overwhelming. Even their body language shifts. They avoid eye contact. They become restless. They seem mentally absent even when physically present. Emotion does not lie. It reflects what logic tries to hide. Betrayal is not only about relationships with others. It applies equally to the commitments you make to yourself. When you betray your goals or your values, the same signs appear. You delay the things you once pursued. You justify choices you know are holding you back. You emotionally disconnect from the version of yourself you want to become. The small actions that reflect your highest standards fade and habits that reflect comfort take their place. Most people think failure begins with one big decision, but it usually starts with tiny compromises that seem harmless until they stack up. Learning to recognize these signs is not about becoming suspicious. It is about becoming aware. It helps you see truth sooner in others and within yourself. Because the body always reveals what the mind tries to mask and behavior always broadcasts what the heart tries to silence. Your own goals and values are reflected in what you consistently do not, what you claim you want, because action is the only real measurement of commitment. Anyone can talk about ambition. Anyone can describe the kind of life they want or the person they hope to become. Words are easy because they feel productive even when they change nothing, but daily choices tell the real story. Your habits expose the truth more clearly than any vision you articulate. If your routines do not match your aspirations, then your routines are the ones revealing what you truly prioritize. People often say they want discipline, structure, growth, or success, but their behavior tells a different story. They wake up late, they delay the work, they negotiate with themselves about tasks they already decided were important. This gap between intention and action becomes the barrier that stops them from evolving. When your dreams live in your mouth instead of your calendar, you create a version of progress that is imaginary. The repetition of small actions is what builds momentum. Without that repetition, your goals remain ideas rather than reality. Values work the same way. You can say you value honesty, but if you hide small truths, your actions say otherwise. You can say you value health, but if you avoid movement and choose comfort, your priorities become clear. You can say you value relationships, but if you show up inconsistently or only when convenient, the pattern exposes your real level of investment. Values are not defined by statements, they are defined by habits. What you repeatedly choose becomes the identity you reinforce every day. This is why self-awareness is so important. When you pay attention to your own patterns, you begin to see where you are in alignment and where you are drifting. If you have goals that are not being reflected in your actions, it is not because you are incapable. It is because you are still choosing something else, even if unintentionally. Sometimes you choose comfort. Sometimes you choose avoidance. Sometimes you choose distraction. And every time you make those choices, you teach yourself who you are becoming. But the powerful part is that you can rewrite this story at any moment. Consistency is not about perfection. It is about deciding that your daily actions must match the identity you want to build. When you begin to choose the action that aligns with your goal, even in the smallest form, your brain begins to trust you. You create evidence for yourself. You prove that you are not merely wishing for a higher standard, but actively living it. This evidence compounds over time and transforms your self-belief. Your actions also teach others how to understand you. If you consistently show up with effort, people learn that you are reliable. If you consistently cut corners, people learn that your words do not hold weight. You cannot control how others see you, but you can control the behavior they observe, and that behavior becomes the truth they believe. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is filled with daily choices. If you want stronger outcomes, you need stronger habits. If you want a different life, you need different patterns. In the end, it is not the dream that defines you. It is the discipline to match your life to that dream in the smallest, most ordinary moments that no one else sees. Integrity is built in the unnoticed moments and becomes the foundation of who you are through daily choices, because character is shaped quietly long before anyone recognizes it. People often think growth happens in dramatic breakthroughs or life-changing events, but the truth is that your identity is formed in the smallest decisions you make when no one is keeping track. These moments build the internal structure that supports your confidence, discipline, and self-respect. When you honor your commitments privately, you strengthen the version of yourself that shows up publicly. The unnoticed moments matter because they reveal your true standard. When no one is watching, you are not influenced by expectations or pressure. You are guided only by your values. If you choose effort over comfort in these moments, you build grit. If you choose honesty over convenience, you build trust with yourself. If you choose follow through instead of excuses, you build reliability. These little decisions stack up and become the evidence you rely on when life gets challenging. They remind you that you can depend on yourself. Daily choices are where integrity is exercised. You choose whether you keep the promise you made to your goals. You choose whether you finish the tasks you said you would complete. You choose whether you respect your boundaries or break them for temporary relief. Every choice either strengthens or weakens your foundation. Integrity is not about perfection, it is about alignment. When your actions match your values, even in small ways, you create a steady internal structure that supports every future goal. The power of these decisions is that they build identity. When you repeatedly show up with discipline, you begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. When you repeatedly act with honesty, you begin to see yourself as someone who can be trusted. Identity is not created by talking about who you want to be. It is created by proving it through daily behavior. The more evidence you create, the stronger your belief in yourself becomes. This foundation matters because life will always test your commitment. Stress, pressure, and uncertainty will challenge your discipline. When that happens, the habits you built in private become the anchor that keeps you steady. If your foundation is built on shortcuts, you will crumble when things get difficult. But if your foundation is built on consistent action, you have the confidence to keep going even when it is uncomfortable. Integrity also influences every relationship you have. When you operate from a place of alignment, people feel it. They trust you because you are predictable in the best way. Your actions match your words. Your presence matches your intentions. You become someone others can rely on because you rely on yourself first. That kind of consistency creates stability in the spaces around you. The unnoticed moments are where the strongest version of you is built. No applause, no validation, no audience. Just you choosing the standard you want to live by. Each choice becomes another brick in the foundation of your identity, and over time that foundation becomes unshakable. In the end, everything comes back to alignment. The words you speak, the goals you set, the values you claim, all of it means nothing unless your daily actions match the identity you say you want to live. Integrity, discipline, and truth are not created in public moments. They are built quietly in the choices you make when no one sees you. That is where character forms, and that is where your future is decided. When you learn to trust your own patterns, you stop relying on intention and start building real evidence of who you are becoming. That evidence is what carries you through pressure, temptation, and fear. It becomes the anchor that keeps you grounded and the compass that keeps you moving forward. Thank you for spending your time and energy here with me. I appreciate you more than you know. If this message pushed you, challenged you, or helped you see yourself with more clarity, make sure you stay connected. Hit subscribe, like, and share so you never miss the next drop. Your growth is worth staying plugged in, and I am here to help you build the strongest version of yourself every single day.